When you are completely convicted in your mission and your message, it is effortless to show up. So I can sit here and say, I did not miss, I showed up every day, but it didn't feel like force, right? Because it was coming from mission and conviction.
Healthy business, healthy relationship. Like I feel that that's a big thing for a lot of women, that sometimes when they've got their relation, they've lost the intimacy, they've lost that part of their relationship.
And then how we set up our life, and you know this from the 1%, is get really clear on your non-negotiables. So I can't always be operating at 100% in every area. However, I can have a standard for who I be in every area.
Isn't it funny? My health is improved and every other part of my life has improved with it, has upgraded, I'm just operating in this next level.
Because every area affects every area. And I think we have to start to understand, whilst it doesn't have to be about balance, it ripples through. The area you are least optimized in, I'm telling you now, is the area that's actually affecting everything.
And it's great that we've got our business, but what we want to do is have our business that sits in our life rather than the business take over.
I look back and I'm like, it's actually about the journey, because I'm building the business to have the impact, yes, to create a life where I literally do whatever I want, whenever I want. I was at the beach this morning walking. Like the whole point of it is to love what I do, be fulfilled whilst providing the lifestyle.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to have Tiana Baxter joining me today, an absolute powerhouse. I'm so excited to have you here because we have a lot of female entrepreneurs that, listening to, our podcast and our YouTube channel. And I think there is no guest more that I've been more excited to talk to, because you actually, for me, I love watching you because you just lead by example. And I love watching you and Josh and the girls and, all the business success that you have. And you're so humble, which is such a beautiful thing. But I think the biggest thing that I really love about you, Tiana, is that you just want people to live their truest and highest potential, to have an incredible life. And when we say incredible life, not just a business, but an actual life they love, with beautiful health, wealth, all the things that go with that, faith. I'm just so excited to have you here today and be joining me. So I guess let's start with, you've had an incredible journey. And I think the great reason why you can really stand on the platforms that you do and be able to coach and do the things that you do is that you've actually had some big experiences through your life. You've been in the trenches. You've had business success. There's been so much. But I'd love to hear your story, and it can go back to wherever you want to start it to this very moment. Some of the key milestones and the biggest lessons that got you to this moment, to be sitting before me now and creating this beautiful life that you created.
Thank you, beautiful lady. I am so excited and so honored to be here with you. You are a force to be reckoned with. So thank you for having me. Where to start? I love that question. So how far back do we go? So I'll start sort of from, I guess, what made me step into, I came from a corporate background, and I think when I say corporate, I was the head of retail for a very large retail business here across Australasia, actually the largest. And I had a portfolio from anywhere from 250 million to 500 million at any one time, right? With a team of thousands. So it was it was a big role. And that role, I was there for 9.5 years with that company. And it was probably what I would say the biggest sure footing that I could have ever had. I loved it. It was an incredible business. But I think what I really learned in those moments were, which I think is why I'm so passionate about teaching it, is leadership and self-leadership. Because I think one of the things is, as we start as entrepreneurs, then we normally become mums some of the time, then entrepreneurs, or other way around. And we're faced with so many different trials and tribulations. And if we don't understand leadership and, more importantly, self-leadership, then we don't know how to lead ourselves through those moments. And I think for me, starting my whole life was I started working in businesses from when I was like 13 because my parents owned businesses. So I've come from an entrepreneurial background, and then going and working for someone in a company, which again, incredible role. I really got to learn people, understand people. I got to go through my own development journey through that time as well. And that was what was the very thing I would say that wanted me to launch my own business as well. or my own coaching business. I know you said at the start, which was thank you, very kind words. You made the comment on, I just want to see people completely expand and move into their potential. And I think for me, the reason I'm so passionate about that is because for so long, I did not play into my potential at all. And I think when people are starting to feel, and when I say people, I'm talking because I've been there, right? Yeah. Stuck or in this place of procrastination or angst, or even if I'm honest, anxiety, depression, some of these bigger mental health issues, I believe, come from the place of knowing you are meant for more and you don't know where to start, right? And I know that can be eliminated when we do start playing into our potential. So I think for me, I'm going to start a little bit from my childhood. Not a lot, but a little bit, because it really shaped who I am today. And when I was young, I was a professional athlete. So I was a sprinter pretty much my whole life. And I learned in those moments what it means to have good habits, good behaviors, train hard for what you want, compete, lose, win, be a gracious loser, be a gracious winner. And I think that started when I was 7, all the way up until, in my 20s. And I only stopped because I got pregnant. And so I think those key moments when I was young shaped who I became at the end of the day. And I've taken all of those lessons with me on this journey, through motherhood, through divorce, through getting remarried, through starting several businesses, through running businesses with my husband, through the death of very close people to me as well, and recently as well. And being able to know that, and this is something that I talk to a lot, is you are consistently evolving. And to know that whatever you're faced with is a moment. You are not the moment. It is a moment happening. And that, for me, I would say learning that from that young age of being in a competitive sport, being in a sport where you didn't perform if you didn't practice. You didn't perform if you didn't have good habits. You didn't perform if you couldn't emotionally regulate, was just, I think, I didn't realize at the time. I was young and naive. But now when I look back, I am so grateful for that building ground, because it has definitely been the thing that set me up for success going forward.
A lot of entrepreneurs actually do come from a professional athlete background, or, definitely, it's, and I saw you the other day actually at the kids, well, at the track, but at the kids.
Oh yes.
And and I was like, oh my God, look at her go. And I loved that you beat all the men and the women, you were first, and it was amazing. You're like professional, so exciting. But carry on, keep going.
Yeah, it's so true, right? I mean, I still go to the parent. I'm that parent at the sports carnivals. I swore I would never be. My mum was never it. All my friends' mums were it. My mum wasn't. I'm that mum. I'm literally that mum on the sidelines. I'm really trying hard not to be that mum, but I'm still that mum. And I have 2 little girls. I've got Ocean, who is 6, and Indy, who's 12, almost 13. So she's 13 in a month. And, I'm raising 2 little leaders. I'm raising 2 women in this world. And my role has always been show them what's possible. I don't show them perfection. They don't see perfection from me. Just the other day, Indy saw, she's like, whoa, Mum. I'm like, yeah, now let me show you how I'm going to repair that. Let me show you how I'm going to overcome that. And, learn the lessons. Don't just look for perfection. And so I'm always putting the sports carnival. I'll go in the parents' race. I'll do things like that because I want to show them. Just because I'm 40, I can still do stuff.
Yeah, exactly. There's no limitations, is there?
That's it. And so to fast track forward, I was working in the retail business. It was an incredible business. My role was really building these businesses to millions of dollars, sales, training, coaching, succession planning, the team underneath me, to make these businesses profitable at the end of the day. And I got to a point where, you sort of reach a certain point in a corporate role, like in a company, that there was almost a glass ceiling now. There was sort of nowhere really else to go within that business. And I had a passion. I could see the succession planning that had been created from the people, you're only as good as your team, right? So I could see this happening, and I wanted to create more opportunities for them. And I knew that it was time that I did something on my own. Now, in saying that, Josh and I, so my husband and I, we own companies together already. So we own an e-commerce business. We own a retail business. So we already own businesses, but he was predominantly running those. I was more like just strategic advice. I go in and help with the strategy, but he runs the day to day. And I said to him, and I had lots of friends who were online coaches at the time. And if I'm honest, I probably didn't want to do it. because I saw they were online coaches and it didn't look as glamorous as, what I was like, no, not doing that. I also had never been on social media before. So when I say that, I had a family profile with like maybe 300 followers. I'd never spoken to camera. I'd never done any of that. And I said to him, I really want to, I have a message to share and I don't know how to share it with people, but I know I can help people. I'm looking at my team. And it wasn't just the strategic business advice. It was watching them as a human develop their leadership and who they become. And they became more and more powerful in what they were doing. And I said to him, I want to help people. And he had suggested, why don't you just start an Instagram and just start talking into it? And I said, that's actually a really good idea. So I started a new page, an Instagram page I remember coming up with, which is this one here, Tiana Rose Inc. And I literally would get on there every day and just speak. Now, this is at the point in time where stories were like 15 seconds, 15-second lots. And I remember my stories would sometimes go for 6 minutes. Masterclasses. I would just share things I'd learned or what I was moving through. And at this point in time as well, I then had a very clear understanding of the coaching industry. I was watching people and I'd said to him, right, I'm starting a coaching business. I can see I'm impacting people. People are, asking me questions. I want to have a bigger impact in this world. So I went and hired a business coach, and I didn't even have a business yet, but I invested in a business coach and worked with her for a few months and learnt what I needed to learn. And then I just built this business organically, one step at a time. I just kept showing up. I did not miss. And I just kept offering impact and offering advice, and it just slowly built. And from that minute, I decided to go full time. It was in December 2021. Yes. Yep. The 16th of December. I remember it to this day. It was my last day with the company I was with at 9.5 years. I didn't wait to do my 10 years because I could see the growth that I was already having here. Started the business, and within 5 months of being in this business full time, we hit $1 million cash in 5 months. And I just knew instantly from that moment that this was a business that, one, I get to have impact, but I also get to be profitable. So from there, it just exploded.
Which I think is a really good, it's only 2000, did you say 2021?
21, yeah.
That's
it was like the middle of COVID. I remember we were in lockdown.
And that's amazing. I think if anybody's listening to this, some people, it takes a lot longer than that to have the success that they have. But I think, as you said, you just had this conviction, this message to share. You had the experience behind you. And I guess, when you actually sit in that personal power, that mission, that purpose, that knowing, it's an actual knowing that you are here to be of service and to create a legacy.
Yes.
At the end of the day, a legacy that, that goes beyond you. Not only your children are going to be your legacy, but now that your business as well. How important is it to really sit in that conviction of personal power? And I guess, that self-mastery, for me, we master the person, we can master the life, and that's a continuous journey. And it's one of my core teachings is self-mastery.
Yes.
But I'd love you to share about the personal power, because I know that's one of the things that you really tap into, and that self-leadership.
Yeah, I love that. And, I think when we talk about, you asked me, the first question was conviction. I've had this business now, we're 2024, so right, so we're 3 years into this business, and I can really see, and even in the other businesses that we own, when you are completely convicted in your mission and your message, it is effortless to show up. So I can sit here and say, I did not miss, I showed up every day, but it didn't feel like force, right? Because it was coming from mission and conviction. But I've also had moments throughout it where I haven't felt as convicted. Or I was teaching something that I didn't actually really want to teach anymore. Or, there was just misalignment moments. And then I can see as well, then that it does feel like force, and it does feel like hard for showing up. And so I always say to people, stop looking for what you think people want. Share what you know is inside that people need to hear. And the minute you do that, the showing up becomes effortless. Because anything in force, and we know this, right? Your alignment behind the scenes is what makes you magnetic on the scenes. And anything coming from force, it's repelling. It's a repelling energy. And so conviction for me, anything I do now, if I'm not completely convicted in it, I don't do it. And if that means delaying a launch, delaying executing on something, I now know the difference, though, because there is a difference between delaying and procrastinating.
What would you say that is?
Yeah, so I believe my thoughts on, I think procrastination is one of the, there's a few of them, right? But procrastination for me would be one of the number one things that keeps people stuck. And procrastination is actually costing you the life that you want to live. And I'll tell you what I believe procrastination. I'm a bit of a straight shooter, you know this. So
we love a straight shooter.
I'm going to give everyone, please take this. Please feel my heart when I say this. Is when you start making it about you, you'll procrastinate. When you start making it about you, you'll procrastinate. When you are honestly here to get your message out to help someone else, you won't procrastinate. Because how can you? Because it's not about you. It's about helping them. And I say to anyone that I work with, and I'm not saying you have to be perfect now. I still procrastinate over certain tasks in my business all the time. And when I do it, I say, okay, Tiana, is this about you right now? Like if this is about you. So if you don't get this done, you can't serve that person. You can't help this person change their life. You can't help this person make money, whatever it is. So is it actually about you? Get out of your own way. Stop making everything about you and make it more about them. And the minute I do that, there's no procrastination because it's no longer just about me.
I absolutely love that. And, because I know with a lot of business owners, potentially sometimes they've got into business because they feel passionate and they want to make money. And maybe that little bit, that mission and that conviction and that actual, I'm here to fucking change the world part can be missing.
Yep.
And how do we connect that in?
This is big. And I want to say that as well, because it's so easy for me to sit here and go, be convicted and have your mission. Sometimes you don't know what it is. You don't, because you evolve, right? The other thing, and you're probably sick of hearing me say this, but build your business in the evolution of you. Because there are things that, like I said, I was teaching when I started. Not that I wouldn't teach them now, but I'm not as passionate. I'm not going to be as convicted to show up in that, right? And I think the other thing is I will sit here and say, be of service to others. It's truly what I believe. However, you also get to be compensated for that. And, you're not a charity by any means. And so I think a lot of people can separate the two and think, oh, well, if I'm in service, then I can't be being compensated for that. Or I'm incorrect if I want to be in service and ask for money. And I think there's this constant game that people play with themselves around this. And it's no, you actually get to be both. It's an exchange. It's a value exchange. It's, what we've created as a value exchange. And so I think to bridge the gap, it's getting very clear on what you actually want to make an impact in, not what you think is going to make you money. Not what you believe, because I've done this. I've gone, what do people, what is the problem I'm solving, which is very important. But what do I want to make an impact in? What if I was to pass away tomorrow, touch wood, what do I want people to be saying about me? What do I want my kids to be saying? Like, what legacy am I leaving? And I think, even from a positive psychology point of view, one of the interventions that we do is we actually, it sounds quite morbid, but we do it. We write what is on our tombstone. Like, what is the thing that people are writing it? What is on there? And it's a good question because I think so often we show up on what we think we should do for others, which we should. But if you come purely from, I've learned this lesson, I'm going to teach this. And the easiest way to find that is, who is the past version of you? Who is the past version of you? Who were you once? Because who you were once, you've overcome that. That is what you teach. You teach the middle part. So everything I teach is from, oh, I've been there. I've been divorced. I've been here. I've had grief. I've had all these things. I've been in procrastination. I've been stuck. I've been all these things. This is how I overcome it. So I teach the process on the middle part. How can I not be convicted in that? Because I know what it is to be on the shittier side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what gives you the being able to actually share, that you have experienced all these things and how you've actually worked through them. One of the things that I see with women is they really struggle to hold all the parts of their life. And I can honestly say for you, it's been probably one of my struggles. I know when I first had my business, I was so obsessed with my business that potentially there's been moments that my family has come second. But holding health, because we know if we don't have our health, we don't have anything. And when I say health, I mean healthy body, but also healthy mind, and mental health. Healthy business, healthy relationship. Like, I feel that that's a big thing for a lot of women, that sometimes when they've got their relation, they've lost the intimacy. They've lost that part of their relationship. And I know that you're an absolute you're actually teaching so many things, and so many things that you've helped me with as far as my relationship's gone. And I'll share a little bit about that as we go on. The wealth part. How is it that, you can hold all of it? Like, and I think that's if we could hand this to women in this conversation today, it would be absolutely life-changing.
Yeah. I think the first thing is, I don't believe, and I've never believed in balance. Okay? Because I think we hear, so I believe you can have it all? Yes, I do. Do I believe that at every single moment, every single thing will be at 100%? No, I don't. And the reason why is, well, I guess that depends on what you call 100%, right? But if you're a high achiever, and I can imagine all your audience are high achievers, right? If they're attracted to you, they will be. And I think we tend to be in seasons, right? So we tend to have seasons, right? So when I started this business, I was all in, I still am. But obviously when you're building a business from the ground up, that's, there's a lot that goes into that.
Everything.
So I was in this building season, right? So of course there are other things that took a backseat, and there were consequences for that. There were consequences in my relationship. There were consequences in my health. Nothing too detrimental, thank goodness, because I'd learned some lessons in the past, but there were still consequences. And you have to sit back and just get to a point. So the first point of this, if I was to be speaking to the women that are going through this, is decide what you're available for and be unavailable for anything less. So everything in your life right now, so health, fitness, nervous system, right? Nervous system, relationships, so either your friendships or your husband, partner, whatever that looks like for you, your business. Decide very clearly what you're available for, and don't be available for anything less. And keep that as a mantra in your mind. Then how we set up our life, and this from the 1%, is get really clear on your non-negotiables. So I can't always be operating at 100% in every area. However, I can have a standard for who I be in every area. And so I have complete non-negotiables that run my life, so to speak. Yeah. So that way I don't drop below, say, 80%. So even if one's at 100, my health and fitness will never take a dive again, ever. In terms of, it might not be at 100%, but it's not going to go below a baseline, because it's not who I be. I have a standard for who I be, because we know firstly, it's really interesting. I do a lot of surveys and stuff like that on Instagram, as I'm sure you do. And you'll say to people, what do you want most? And it'll be like money, happiness, your relationship, love, or health. And it's mind-blowing. People will go money, relationship, then health. But yet, without your health, you can't have any of those things. Right? It is actually really interesting. But I get it. We want the desire. We want the shiny thing first. I get it. And so when you know that, well, hey, if I'm actually healthy and looking after myself, then I'm going to have more energy. I'm going to feel sexier. Right? So where we're optimized, it ripples to every area. So I'm going to feel sexier. So I'm going to want to be more sexy with my partner, firstly, because that matters.
And just to give some context, we were talking before we came on, and I can't even remember what you said. You said something to me, and I was like, oh, yeah. And I said, I've lost some weight, and we're talking about, really being focused on my health. And we laughed because normally in Zoom you have just got this top half that's done and the tracky dacks on the bottom. But I was like, actually, I've been really making an effort every single day to jump up and be sexy me, be the best me, feel good, makeup on, hair done, let my husband look at me and think I'm sexy, just all those things. And it's just, you actually show up differently. I feel good in my clothes. And not that it's just all about the external, because it's definitely not, but health is absolutely, isn't it funny? My health is improved and every other part of my life has improved with it, has upgraded, I'm just operating in this next level. Yeah. And I guess that's what you're just trying to say. Like, really.
This is 100% it, because if you don't have a standard for these other areas, when let's just say you're going all in on your business, right? They're building, and you don't have a standard as in a routine or habits, non-negotiables for your health, for your relationship, let's just use those two, then when you're going at 100% here and you're giving all your focus and all your attention here, how, like, the amount of mental capacity you're going to need to try and think of, I've got to train, and I've got to do this, and you're creating this complete overwhelm every day. Whereas if you get up and you just know, no matter what is happening, these things are a non-negotiable in my life, and keeping them simple enough that they can be, like you said, you get up now and you dress ready for the day because you feel good, you show up differently. There's actually it's like a psychology called clothed perception. And it's actually, I'll tell you in a second about a study they did, and it's incredible. And you show up for your day, you're eating better, right? You're training, you've got your husband and you are on fire. I imagine your intimacy is on fire, and your business is booming. Because every area affects every area. And I think we have to start to understand, whilst it doesn't have to be about balance, it ripples through. The area you are least optimized in, I'm telling you now, is the area that's actually affecting everything. And this is something I know, and I know mainly women listen to this podcast, but from a male's perspective, Josh will say to me, like, he runs big businesses, and he will say to me, the minute our relationship isn't 100%, everything feels like it's failing.
Yeah, I have to agree with that too. As you know, the last couple of months for me, it's been a big transformation. I've had a huge awakening, especially when it's come to my relationship. So grateful for everything that's gone on, and you've been an absolute light through that. But it's so true and I know even now, because I feel so secure, so fulfilled in my relationship that, I just feel you just feel differently.
Yeah.
And when you show up and so, I mean, that's just amazing. Yeah. So, relationships, being able to hold your relationships, your health, so important. And it's great that we've got our business, but what we want to do is have our business that sits in our life rather than the business take over. And I guess that's my mission now for my industry, is really, because I know what it's like to be where your life sits in your business.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel good. There's misalignment. If you've got deadlines, you'll miss the gym and your health bits, and there's no date nights, and time is the problem, but time is never the problem, as we know. It's just prioritizing, isn't it? Prioritizing. And as you said, it's such a great opportunity for our listeners to just set their non-negotiables around health, relationships, and health could be, 30 minutes of exercise in the morning, a bit of mindfulness. It doesn't have to be crazy. I think we make it, as you said, the mental capacity bigger in our heads than what it should be. Relationship, it could be that connection piece just each day a little bit. Date nights, simple little things to keep the fire in the relationship.
Yep.
And obviously, as we go down, and it's just those non-negotiables, it's setting your standards and accepting nothing less than.
Yeah. I think the question to ask ourselves, because when we start building businesses, I think, and I've been there, so I get it, that why are you building it? Right? You're building it for freedom. You're building it to have the life that you want to live, right? The life by design for many people. But yet you've become a hostage and a prisoner to the business. And I'm very results driven. I am. So I'm very much, this is the result I want, and I go for it. And as I said, I was a competitive athlete. So for me, that's always been the way I've been brought up. But when you hear the saying, you have to enjoy the journey, I used to be like, oh, whatever. Stop saying that to me. I'm going for the result. But now the wisdom, right? Because everything in hindsight is now wisdom. I look back and I'm like, it's actually about the journey, because I'm building the business to have the impact, yes, to create a life where I literally do whatever I want, whenever I want. I was at the beach this morning walking. I can take my kids. I can do anything I want to do now, because I've created this financial freedom. But yet, as I'm building it, why do I need to punish myself in it? Like, the whole point of it is to love what I do, be fulfilled whilst providing the lifestyle. Otherwise, what you build it and then you wait till it gets to a certain point to then actually love what you do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and and I think one of the things is that you mentioned before about nervous system dysregulation, and I know for me, I was a busy addict.
Yes,
it's what I'd seen my whole life. I don't have time. I don't, and it's amazing that I just kept. I had my business and life epiphany at 37, quite late, which is 12 years ago.
Exactly when it was supposed to come, though.
To happen.
You wouldn't have noticed it.
I realised that so many, that there was so much coding, conditioning, behaviors, all the things that there was a lot of that wasn't even actually me. Like I just was replaying the programs that I'd been taught until I actually understood psychology and how we actually become who we are.
Yes.
And then I started to question everything. But, I think too, over the last couple of years, there has been a lot of stress, I would say. Like we're in it, there has been, with COVID, there's a lot gone down. And that dysregulation of nervous systems, I think, is still there, and it's very addictive.
Yes.
I've got clients now that have created this level of freedom, and they're, this feels unusual. I don't know what to do. I'm just sitting here and I don't know what to do. And, get the voice note and just going, I'm just in this unfamiliar. And I go, really breathe into this. This is, I feel like I should be somewhere doing something, that kind of, I'd love you to share some light on that, because I know that especially with the nervous system.
Yes, absolutely. And you've already put a lot of light on it just with what you said. But we really play out as humans our patterns, right? So past conditioning, whether it's from childhood, whichever layer you look at. Now, something I don't go into and I don't love is I don't think you have to go 7 layers deep with everything.
No, and I love that about you.
It's like, let's just here's the method, here's the protocol, let's move. Like, let's not dig up the past. Like, this is not what you asked, but it's funny. Josh and I were having a conversation last night. I don't believe in constant talk therapy. I don't believe we have to unpack everything, because we know our words have power, right? There's power in our tongue. And the minute we speak, it becomes the new reality again. And so we just keep living the same thing over and over. So instead, take the thought captive and say no to it, and then speak what you do want, And so I think when I look at like nervous system and this constant need to be busy, and I think we can all relate to it, especially in a world where it is busy and there is, a lot always happening. There's a lot always in our attention. There's a lot of distraction. So distraction in our life, right? And if you're running a business, that it's the biggest weakness is when, procrastination and distraction is the two things that will bring you down before anything else. And for me, the way I look at it is we live out patterns that are on repeat constantly. Our brain wants to be safe, right? How our brain is safe is through familiarity. So if we are someone who is programmed in our nervous system of feeling almost, those fight, flight, freeze, fawn, those different phases, if we are used to being in more of a fight, like more on, our nervous system's a bit more sparked is how I like to call it. When we're not, it feels unsafe because it's just a new pattern, because our brain will look for patterns, because when we find patterns, it's familiar, which means we're now safe.
Yeah.
Right? It's what it's here to do. It's here to survive. It's here to create safety. And so when you're feeling that feeling of, what do I do? What do I do? It is that taking that moment and breathing and just actually saying to yourself, that's right. You're used to this, but hey, let's create the new normal now. Let's create the new normal now. And I notice it in myself when I have a moment and then I'm like, I should go do. I'm like, actually, this just gets to be a new normal right now. And actually allowing just to stop for a moment and noticing it's awareness. It's just awareness. You don't have to do anything with it. Just going, that's interesting. No judgment, just contemplation. Like, I can see this pattern wanting to play out again. I can see this habit wanting to play out again.
And it's so good. And I think that consciousness and the self-awareness piece is huge, because I know for me, I was definitely in default mode for a long time. I was always a high performer, probably doing business for the wrong reasons, trying to prove myself until I become aware of the patterns and the thought process behind that. But awareness is so important, and awareness around everything, really, isn't it? And seeing the patterns. And it is your patterns of health, patterns in business, your patterns in your relationship, patterns. It just plays out everywhere.
It does. And I think even like you were mentioning, we're talking about relationships. 99, like we coach couples, and we see what goes on behind closed doors. We know what goes on behind closed doors. And most of the time, it's just a pattern that you're in. It's just literally a pattern. You're used to playing out the same habits and behaviors. It's low frequency and you're just on repeat. And that's why, you hear me say this, but you don't need to just start a new version. Like, you don't have to end your marriage. You don't have to end the relationship. You don't have to burn it to the ground. You don't have to unpack 10 years worth of your trauma together. You just have to decide right now, this pattern no longer serves us. New version.
New version of us today. Yes. And I think one of the key things that I learned from you is that when you're in the shit with your partner and trying to, because there's a lot of ego, there's a lot of I'm right, there's a lot of, sometimes you're not going to ever be able to come to an agreement. And I love it because you and Josh go, we just know there's sometimes we're not going to agree on it. But to put the armor down and actually become intimate.
Yes.
In those moments.
Yeah.
Like for me, it was the one thing that I can honestly say to you has probably saved my marriage this year. Taking that advice of not trying to solve all the problems in that moment.
There's a percentage, and I think it's like, sorry to interrupt, but you just remind me of something. It's like 76% of problems in your relationship are unsolvable. But yet you're trying to solve them. But you're two people from living different life experiences. And you spend so much time. And what happens is you have the argument, right, about the perceived problem. The argument no longer becomes about the problem. The argument becomes about the argument and who's right about the way they're arguing. Think about it, right? Whenever Josh and I fight, we're no longer actually fighting with the focus on repair of the problem. What was the problem that we were bringing? We want to repair it. So we should be working together. Oh, no. Now we're fighting because, like you said, ego and, I want to be right because to be right is to be safe. Our brain wants to be safe. And so it's this whole consistent thing of now we're fighting about the fact that we're fighting and now we're fighting to be right. And that's just, you stay in this perpetual cycle instead of focusing on what was the problem that we're trying to repair in the first place.
It's so amazing. And to actually just be in the present moment.
Yeah.
Not going back there, not looking there and just being in the present moment. It's just unbelievable. And to to find that intimacy, because what does intimacy do?
Yeah, it protects the connection. And whenever I look at, I've been divorced, I'm very blessed. We have a great relationship. We're best friends to this day, so very blessed. But when I look at things that break apart or I see people break apart, it's because the connection's severed. Yeah. So you can fight. Fighting's actually, I wouldn't even try and avoid fighting, if I'm honest. I shouldn't say fighting to a degree, and I'm speaking in healthy relationships. I'm not speaking, completely volatile relationships by any means. But, Josh and I disagree all the time. It's like tug of war in our house. Literally, someone said the other day, oh, you guys should film a reel on such and such. I'm like, we should just get cameras put in our house and then we've got content for years.
Exactly.
You can just watch. And it's not the disagreement. That's healthy because you learn wisdom from each other, on values and what each other stands for. It's the repair process. It's the connection. Look after your connection. Don't let that break. And how you don't let that break is, one, prioritize your friendship. 80% of people get divorced, not because of fighting, because they've grown apart. And so it's focus on your friendship. Go back to being friends. Like, I don't like golf. I really don't like golf. Josh loves golf. So every now and then I'll randomly message him and go, because, we own business, we've got freedom. Hey, babe, want to go play golf? Let's hang out, because we are really good mates, but we run businesses. We run a household. We're husband and wife. We've got kids. We've got these other things together that the friendship can go on the back burner. So we keep that alive because that keeps your connection. I'm like, don't sever your connection. The second thing I would say for that is fight fair. You sever your connection when you don't fight fair. Now, I'm not talking about trying to be right or ego or even, okay, I'm not normalizing this, but, not even highly expressed name calling and stuff, whilst it's not respect and I'm not saying it's healthy, even that's not going to be the thing. The thing is going to be the thing is letting temporary feelings dictate permanent actions. Meaning, we're getting a divorce. We're breaking up, mid-argument. Those volatile things that you throw out there, that severs the connection because it severs trust. Whereas this little nickering, bickering, that doesn't sever trust, right? It's not healthy all of the time, but it doesn't sever trust. It's the big things. Steer clear of the big things. Fight fair.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. And I think you and Josh do a really good job of, and as you said, like it's a tug of war. You both are both so passionate, you know what I mean? And what I really love about you guys is you can see the values that you hold. Which I think is super important as couples, that you need to know, well, what are our values? What are our family values? What do we stand for?
Yes.
I think you can really see that with you guys. But I also love that you hold each other to the highest standard. And I
Yeah.
remember Josh saying, "Are you going to fight for your place in the mud?"
Yeah, I
And
was about to say that, yeah.
I'm sure there's times that you've had to say it to him, when we all go on
Well, he says it to me, but hey.
and I think that's a great thing, like to actually have a partner that can, hold you to a higher standard.
Oh, we do. It was I guess you could say a rule from day one though, because you're going to, like, we got together when I was, well, we've been together 9 years. I just turned 40 last week. So, since I was like, say 30, like even that evolution, my 30s to my 40s, right? We had a baby, like we have another child where, he's a co-parent, like we're going to change. Right. But so often we want to hold each other to the version that we met. And that's where relationships going to be, especially if, and I don't know if this is your audience, but all of a sudden the woman starts a business. So she's not a stay-at-home mum anymore. And then the dynamic changes.
Yes, it
Right?
does.
This is a big thing. This is a big thing we coach people on. And, she then becomes what people call, which I will be very clear, don't love the language, boss babe, right?
Yeah.
I think detrimental language in a relationship with a male and a female. And, she becomes this powerful woman, which is good. But then he doesn't know how to then hold that because she's more in her masculine and it's this constant,
Battle
at the same time. And so it's understanding the roles that you both play, the values that you both have, and then holding each other to that standard. So, and Josh will say to me, but, I think everyone can ask themselves this question. And even if you're listening to some of this and you're like, oh, not too hard, not bullshit, whatever, just ask yourself, where am I fighting for my place in the mud? So you're in the mud and you're fighting to stay there. And he will say it to me when I'm like, he'll be like, you fighting for your place in the mud now? Is that how we're playing? Or, like I said to Josh, and I don't know if you were on the call when Josh shared this, I didn't do it the way he shares it. He shares it a lot more volatile than what it was. But, we have a standard for our health and our fitness. And Josh had put on a little bit of weight, right? And I don't mind that. I'm, that's okay. I'm not judging that, but I know it's not who he is. I knew it wasn't healthy. And so I just gone up to him one day and made a joke, and he had like no shirt on, he had his pants on, and he had like, some weight. And I just grabbed it and I went, hey, when did this become normalized in this relationship? Like, when did this become normalized for the standard you hold? And he just looked at me, and at first he was like, what? And then he was like, thank you. You're right. I've dropped the ball on this, this, and this. It wasn't about what he looked like. It was just my way of going, hang on, I've noticed you've dropped the ball. I'm not going to coach you on it. I'm just going to point it out with love.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. And if you can do that, because sometimes I think that, when you do that, but that's where I think you've got to get really clear on one, the values, the standards, the non-negotiables, and this is in a relationship, that's what you've got to, and if you can move together, it's a powerful force. And I guess it really is a great conversation to sort of talk about, because I know for me, I've sat in my masculinity a lot as far as, and it's, to actually sit back in my feminine and receive, especially from my husband.
Yeah.
Who is a king.
Yeah.
I've got a husband that is actually a king. He's not, I haven't taken away his masculinity, put it that way. He's a king. But when you're playing masculine a lot, it can be, repelling.
Yeah.
And to actually be able to receive is huge.
Yes. And the thing is, it's interesting because in business, when we're wanting to make money, that's receiving energy.
Yes.
Right. And people wonder why they can't receive. And whilst I don't want to, I'm really clear. I try not to speak too much masculine, feminine language, because I think it gets a bit, people think feminine's always gooey.
Yeah.
I don't believe that either. Like, I believe you are, I am, I imagine all of your clients, your audience are powerful women. You get to be a powerful woman as well as be a well looked after. I'm going to use a word here that I know is going to trigger, but I'm just going to use it for a moment, very brief moment. Submissive. Doesn't mean submissive as in meek or, what's the word? Weak. Submissive as in, I trust my king to lead. Men go to war. Women raise babies, right? I'm not saying that hasn't changed, but that's how we were brought up, right? Our men can stand up and hold us if they choose to. It has to be the right man. Yes, that does, I'm not saying they don't have a role to play. But as women, we get to allow our men to lead. We want them to lead, but yet we keep taking the lead. How can they lead?
Yeah, it's so true.
And Josh and I went through this, I'm very independent. I'm fiercely independent. And, I would often just lead everything. And then it gets to, that's where he will come up against me. He won't allow it. And he'll say, let me actually lead the family in this way. You can lead this area. So instead of it being, that's not a female job, that's not a male job, I don't believe it's 2024. Let's just get rid of that. Instead, we go, what are your skill sets? What are you really good at, Tiana, that I'm not good at? Even if it is a male job, you do that. I'm going to do this. And leading our family in these values and these areas is a non-negotiable as your husband. And I'm like, I love that. Like, that is sexy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a really good way to look at it as well. Energetics.
Yeah.
I reckon sometimes my clients get a little bit sick of me saying it.
Yeah.
Like the frequency, and everything is a frequency, and everything is a vibration.
Well, we have the frequency scale, right? So we understand it's quantum physics. It's not made up, and everything emits a vibration, right? Every single thing. And so it's knowing what you are, knowing where you're at on the scale. So what is your set point? So what I always look at, and this is why everything we've spoken about is so you are playing in a higher level frequency, right? Yeah. And it's knowing what is my current set point, because you have, anger, and then all the way down the bottom, you have guilt and grief and things like that. And how do I consistently move up into the higher levels of joy and happiness and love? And when you're there, you feel better. When you feel better, you do better. And so it's, for me, energetics is a huge part of the work that I do with people, and it's interesting. What I found interesting is when I've worked with men, and especially in their businesses, men are very strategic, right? They're very logical and they don't spend a lot of time with energetics. When we've done energetic work, it has been, even for Josh, when he was like, mind bending the results they then got on their business.
Yeah.
So it's proof in the pudding, but it all comes down to what we've just spoken about. The self-mastery is how you move into a higher level frequency.
Yeah, it's so true. And I like, one of the things that I say to my clients, when you've had great results, everything's been amazing, where have you been on, as far as your frequency and your vibration? And it's always at expansion. And when they're contracting, the shit hits the fan. And it's just, and being able to be able to move through that is so important.
Yeah.
One of the things you said the other day, self-doubt means go.
Yes.
We're in a world where there's a lot of self-doubt. People doubt themselves. It's, that self-trust is, for me, a key ingredient for creating life and business by design, that self-trust. And I think some people do it better than others, but I'd love you to share that little bit of the concept about self-doubt means go.
Yeah. So I think the only way I've ever built self-trust, like the only way, is through action. Right? And we need to have a level of trust to be able to build these businesses, to be able to, find the partner that we want, be good parents. And it comes from the action. But so often we face doubt, and we think doubt means stop.
Yeah.
We think as soon as we feel that feeling of doubt, especially if we faced doubt in the past, especially if we've got that programmed in our nervous system, we think the signal of doubt means stop. It doesn't. The signal of doubt means go, because it just means that you're on the level of expansion, right? Because we know growth doesn't happen in this level of comfort, right? We grow when we face challenges. We grow when we face adversity. We grow in those moments. And so we feel this level of doubt. It just means I haven't done it before. It doesn't mean I can't do it. It just means I haven't done it before. I have a lot of confidence for things I've done.
Yeah.
But the minute I have doubt, it doesn't mean I'm not going to be good at it. It just means I haven't done it. Therefore, I must go so I can then gain that self-trust and confidence so I can do the next thing.
So good.
It's so simple but so powerful, right?
I know. It's just this is just, So anytime there's self-doubt, take action, means go, because you're just going to build up, that confidence to that next thing, and just self-trust, really.
Yeah. Self-doubt does not mean stop. So anytime you feel that, do not believe. It's just the same as failure is not a person, right? It's not a personality. It's a situation that happened. Whereas we fail and then we identify with the failure. We make it our identity. No. We are the person. The thing happened. Separate the two.
Yeah, exactly. I could sit here and talk to you all day, but I want to be respectful of your time. Just got a couple of little quick rapid fire questions. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Oh, it's a good question. I've had a few of those. I would say procrastination is the cost of the life that you want to live.
Oh, I love that. I love
Yeah.
it.
I think
And
procrastination, there are too many people sitting not playing in their potential, and they're sitting there feeling stuck, they're feeling uncomfortable, they're wanting to move. And I'm talking even people that are successful, but they're procrastinating on what to do next. And it's costing them the life that they truly want. It's costing them the freedom.
beautiful. What does living your best life mean to you?
So many things, but I would say being able to do what I want when I want whilst leaving an impact by doing it.
I love it. So for anybody that wants to find you, where's the best place to find you?
My Instagram. Yes,
Yeah.
Tiana Rose Inc. Tiana Rose Inc. Yeah.
Beautiful. And what's next for you? I know that you've got a little something exciting launching.
Yes. So we've got the 1% movement, which is the space that you're playing with us in, which is the thing that we are growing. So we have a goal to impact 1,000 lives this year inside that space. So that's really exciting. We have our free event, by the way. We'll pop the link for your people because everyone should come to that. It's going to be incredible. It's called Fortify, and it's a 5-day free event. And then we have a new business launching, a new coaching business launching as well. That is predominantly for trade-based businesses, so it's a little bit different. And we have our live event happening next year as well in February. So Josh and I do stage events, live events. So we have that happening, which is going to be really exciting. It's called Rich Expansion.
Click over to your Instagram and they can find you there. Thank you so
Find all of that there.
Much for being my guest today. It's been an absolute honor. I think there's so much gold in this conversation. I absolutely love you and I love what you're about. And thank you for being an exceptional role model and just showing up in the world as the incredible human that you are.
Oh, you are just so beautiful. Thank you. This has been incredible. And, I just adore working with you. I feel very honored. So thank you.